So next up we have Tyler D'Angelo. Just like PR, you have a company, you have a product, how you need an actor, you need marketing. So Tyler has developed marketing strategies and creative messages in the digital and emerging media world. So, Tyler.
Well, first, I'm astounded by the rest of the panel's ability to memorize what they're going to say. So with my lack of ability, I need to project my thoughts on here so I can have something to talk about that's not going too much. Everyone might not be able to see this. I can talk to you as well. How many people have been here? How many people have been on a really bad date ever? Right? I think most of what you can learn about being on a really horrible date is what I'm going to talk about today, which is how to use it. Is everyone familiar with social media, what that means? Right? Most people think like Facebook or Twitter or something like that, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Those are sort of, I would say, those are social networks, right? Social media is really just about, they're tools to use to have conversations with on the web, right? So that could be someone just commenting on a blog post, or you writing on your friend's wall, or even putting a star on how much you like something is really all examples of social media. And the reason it's important is because specifically for a small business is that you don't have huge budgets. And that, like you were saying, that placement as an ad, even if it's a banner ad, in some cases can be $10,000, $30,000, $100,000. That space that you're buying in places where eyes are, that your potential clients are extremely expensive. What social media does is really levels the playing field. It's because online, what wins is whoever has the best idea. So most of some of the best ideas in advertising or PR for that matter that I've ever seen didn't really have to put that much money at all behind it, if anything. They just sort of the best ideas rise to the top. And I think that that's really, it's an advantage that I think small businesses have that over huge companies have when you're dealing with online. What I'm going to sort of go through and why that's important is that how you use the social media can make or break whether it makes any difference at all to your company or whether you're just sort of wasting a lot of time on it. And something that the most successful campaigns have learned is that when you talk about yourself and you don't give anything back and you don't pay attention to who your consumer are or the person sitting across the desk from you or the table in this case, you'll get no response back and people will sort of tune you out because there's a lot of people talking online. So like I was saying before, there's so many different examples of all the different places, and there's a lot of different people who would say, you've got to be on Facebook, you've got to be on Twitter, you've got to be using Foursquare, and it just really, you've got to think more about, I would say, think about what business you're in, and think about who your consumer is, your potential consumer, and what would make most sense to talk about and what your idea is to talk about in those channels. So there's many more than this, but I just wanted to pick out 5 quick examples that may be true for any business, small business in particular. So personal relationships, especially when you're starting out, are extremely important. That's what helps build your business. A lot of people here have talked about how important personal relationships are. You as a small business need to provide a much higher value than a competitor who's much, much bigger than you can do, because in most cases you may be a little bit more expensive than someone who's much bigger and has a lot more efficiencies than you do, especially in the beginning. As an owner, you're going to have a lot of involvement in every aspect of the business, especially in the beginning. And you have limited resources. And the other part, which a lot of people, when they think of the web, don't think of, which is that as a small business, even if your business is completely online, is that being local, especially in the beginning, is critical. And I think that you're going to see some trends going into the next year and the year after that, where the localization of the web and utilizing as much of the free local web as you can to help drive your business is a real opportunity. So that was my point here, is like on your way of becoming the biggest huge category killer you can, just focus what's in your backyard first, and you may see there's tons of opportunities there. This is, again, it's the same thing, is that there's 3 parts that I'll sort of focus on really quickly, in this presentation, which are the building, how do you use social web to build customers, the relationships, and then monitoring your reputation. Those 3 things I think are really important on how you can make the most of getting free press or getting free advertising using social media locally with your business. So here's the thing. So in building customers, what can you do? And I'll just go through these quickly, and afterwards you can feel free to ask me ideas. The first thing is getting listed online. If you have a business, make sure that this is something you can do in an afternoon. You should go to Google Maps, which is local, and they have a free, if you have a business, it says list your business. That's the least of what you could do is list your business on Google, so when people search it, it's going to be one way they can easily find it. There's Yahoo Local, there's Bing, which are those are the 3 top search engines, and then there's things like City Search. Also, which would often be there, is we'll get to would be things like Yelp, which are ways of rating local businesses you may have used. The second thing I'll say is that go to other people's party. Don't just host your own. That's it's like when people think, okay, I got to create a website and I got to have tons of traffic. You don't. You can go out. There's tons of other different websites. There's a lot of traffic. People are already there. Go out there first. So that could be finding groups that exist, user groups online. You probably already belong to. If you have I'm part of the Facebook fan page for whatever, right? That's a group. And that's a group of people that all have the same interest. And if they have the same interest in what your small business is, that's an immediate group of people that you're advertising to just by talking, and that's free. So the second thing, that's an example. If you're a realtor, right? Something that you could be doing to build customers would be going on this website called Trulia, which is about, the Trulia is all different types of how to find houses and searches. So if I was a realtor, I might go on there and I might tell people about how to stage houses or something, right? So they may be interested in it. And then LinkedIn, of course, has user groups, and that's LinkedIn is a social network that's mostly focused on businesses, so that's an area you could be in. And then the last part, there's many more things to this. This ones I'm focusing on now is get outside. Social media is not just about being on the web. Again, these are all tools. So there's different types of sites, like something called Meetup. Meetup is a site that you can say, all right, it's a group that meets outside, much like we're doing right now. We could say, I want to join the meetup for people who are interested in fashion design, right? And so they would meet in a specific place, and online you make those connections, but you meet with people in the real world, and then you go and you're building relationships that way, potential clients and customers. An example I'm giving right here is that there's a remodeler in Encinitas, California that offers workshops on green remodeling, right? So that may be the way he might get new customers, or he might say this is how you tile, your kitchen, right? So that might be the way he can build new customers. So this does live on and offline. Things not to do is don't go say I need to be on Facebook, right? So many people are like I need to be on Facebook. You don't, you do not need to do that. I have clients who have almost 1 million Facebook fans, and I would say 95% of them do not give a shit about them at all. So there's a lot of other places you could be spending time. Facebook is a great place to use it if you have the time, if you have the ability to engage all these fans. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm not saying it's the first thing you should only think about. Buying banner ads. Unless you have a lot of money, that is useless. There's a lot of smaller sites that'll say, even on LinkedIn, they say, buy a banner ad. We'll make sure the right people see it. It's a waste of time and money if you don't have a ton of it. The next thing is spending money on a really expensive website. A lot of small businesses, the first thing they do, I got to build a website. And then they find some web designer, because we can't really afford a really good one. So you got to find some kid who says, oh, I do everything. I'll design your website, I'll program your website, I'll host your website, and it's going to turn into the first major disaster that you can possibly have with your small business. So use the tools that they have available in the beginning, put up a page, and go to WordPress. It's free, there's your website. Building on relationships, right? There's a lot of things that you can start doing that cultivate relationships once you've established